My mother was a witch. Horror stories. I will not give my name. Not even my friends know it. I have always preferred to hide my identity. I am 44 years old. I currently live in a state in the north of the country. I dedicate myself to help people to remedy some evils and also help them to get rid of envy. I do cleanings and healings. I do not do works that serve to obtain things. Neither do I do things that are used to harm others. I only dedicate myself to help those who suffer some evil, a minor evil, no curses or strong spells. I do not get involved with those things because it can be very dangerous, both for me and for the person affected. I don't read cards. I don't make predictions, and much less do I make moorings. I do not charge a single peso. The cost of my services is food and water. A few cigars or a bottle at most. But if you leave me a kilo of tortillas and a can of refried beans, I am well served. I never exaggerate my abilities. I cannot cure cancer, nor blindness. I limit myself to simple things, but I do them well. I never fail. If I say that I can do something is because I can do it. On many occasions, I have already had problems with other people who are dedicated to do things that I do not do. People who are attacked with their work come with me, and I help them. That has made me worthy of some enemies. Fortunately, the saint always watches over me. Everything I do, I learned from my mother, and she from my grandmother. Yes, I am the son of a witch. And with me, my lineage ends because I had no siblings and no children. I had a very horrible childhood because my mother did do black work. She worked with very powerful and extremely dark deities. And that is precisely why I do not do those things. While I lived with my mother, I had to witness really horrible things. My mother was visited by the narcos of the cartel of her state, also by those who wanted to take off her recent political career. Moreover, I remember that on a couple of occasions, some local artists went to her to request her services. My mother was a bad person. She sacrificed animals. She caused abortions. Her dark gods demanded sacrifices from her. I don't like to talk about that because it makes me shudder. Just know that in the city where my mother lived, many young girls disappeared. The truth is that I never wanted to learn anything of what she handled, but she forced me to assist her in some of her works and rituals. So, although I didn't want to, I learned things. There are many myths about witches and witchcraft. One of the most common is that it is said that witches fly. My mother did not fly, but she said that my grandmother could fly, that she turned into a blackbird. Only the most powerful witches can do it, and actually, as far as I know, there is not a single witch who can fly. Another thing that is said is that witches can turn into fireballs. That is relatively true, I explain. Only the Tlahuelpushis can turn into fireballs, but the Tlahuelpushis are not quite witches. They do practice witchcraft, but they are one step closer to hell than normal witches. In order to become fireballs, they must feed on the blood of babies. My mother used to tell me all this before going to sleep. She thought that I liked to listen to these things, as if they were beautiful stories. But the truth is that they terrified me and caused me horrible nightmares. Another thing my mother told me is that there is a rumor that there is a type of witch that is at the top of witchcraft, far above the Tlahuelpushis. They are known as shadow witches. Those things no longer have a single trace of humanity. They have no body or soul or anything. They are just, as their name suggests, a shadow, an evil shadow with a thirst for death. My mother said that the last shadow witch lived in my grandmother's time. My mother was a witch. One curious thing about witches is that they also have their festivities. During the first week of March, there are gatherings that are the equivalent of posadas, and the first Friday in March is like Christmas for witches. There is a feast. It is the most disgusting feast that can exist, because there is plenty of meat, but it is not beef or pork. Something I always like to make clear to people is that there are no good witches, and that witchcraft can not only be used by witches. I am not a witch, and the work I do is witchcraft. What happens is that there is a complete ignorance of what witchcraft really is. Witchcraft is nothing more than a set of rituals that seek to influence the earthly plane through higher or lower planes. There is no white, black, or red witchcraft. That's nonsense. There is only witchcraft, period. Witchcraft rituals are neither good nor bad. It all depends on who asks for them, to whom they are asked, and for what purpose they are asked. A very simple example: when a priest goes to a house to bless it, what he is doing is witchcraft, because he is trying to put a protection to something earthly using energies from higher planes. That is nothing else but witchcraft in the full extent of the word. My mother used to say that we, who belong to the lineage of witches, are born with a gift. She said that we were superior to other people because they did not have the ability to work with energies outside this plane. I have been involved in this for many years, and I can assure you that what my mother said is wrong. Anyone who is at peace with himself can develop the skills required to connect with other planes. In this part, many people get confused. Being at peace with yourself does not mean being a good person. It means that you have to feel good about everything you have done. It means that you do not regret anything, or at least you have learned to live with your mistakes and accept them as just another experience. But everything has fine print. As I said, anyone can develop abilities to connect with other planes. But this does not mean that anyone has the ability to control everything that involves connecting with other planes. This is like if a bridge, yes, anyone can draw a bridge in a notebook, even a child. But the fact that you can draw it does not mean that you have the ability to build it. Many people make the mistake of thinking that managing energies is something simple, especially Christian pastors, who, in my humble opinion, and from my ignorance, are nothing more than a bunch of charlatans. The problem with pastors is that they have killed people while trying to practice an exorcism. Having faith is not enough. You have to know how to use it. I always tell people not to be fooled. If they have a minor ailment, they can come to me, or they can go to a priest or a pastor. But if they have serious illnesses, the best thing to do is to go to a doctor. Any witch doctor who tells you he can cure cancer is a liar and a swindler, because if he could do it, he would be a millionaire. Another thing that many people come to ask me, and I always refuse, is to tell them their future. In witchcraft, there is no ritual that allows me to see the future, and my mother told me that. That's why I refuse, because it can't be done. Witchcraft allows you to do many things. You can poison water. You can cause bad planting seasons. You can kill people. You can cause nightmares. You can even make a person commit suicide. But everything, including witchcraft, has its limits. You can't tell the future. You can't revive the dead, but you can make contact with the dead, talk to them, listen to them, see them. Of course, that is very dangerous. I have never done it. The truth is that I fought a lot before giving my testimony. I am really grateful for the space I was given. I am also grateful for the food I was given as a thank you for telling my story. I do this more than anything to do my bit, so that all this witchcraft business is demystified a little, because many people have been scammed. One last piece of advice: never insult a witch, never make fun of them, never bother them, because if there is something that characterizes witches is that they are extremely vindictive, and if you take a coin from them, they will take everything you love before taking your life. Thank you for joining us for this spine-tingling story. We hope you found it both thrilling and thought-provoking. If you enjoyed this video, please consider participating in our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing it with your friends. Your support goes a long way in helping us create more engaging content for you. Goodbye, and may you always tread carefully in the world of the unknown.